네, 안녕하세요.
Hello, my name is Park Seonghye. I'm with the Advocacy Center for Online Sexual Abuse Victims at the Women's Human Rights Institute of Korea. I would like to briefly tell you a little bit about the work that we do at our Advocacy Center. Oh, we are seeing digital sexual violence on the rise. And that is why in 2016, there was a comprehensive act that was passed in Korea. In 2017, the act was passed, and in 2018, the next year, our center was established. And as you can see, we offer counseling, support, and the removal of images, leading the support. And also, we also help the victims work together with other support organizations like the Sunflower Center, and various other victims advocacy groups, also advocacy groups for children, for young minor victims as well. So we also liaison with other support organizations. Let me tell you a little bit about our victim support system. We have an online bulletin board. We also have a hotline that's open 24 hours a day. So we can receive calls and reports 24 hours a day, as I mentioned, because we have this open line and a hotline, and we can immediately provide victim advocacy through counseling support and to help them remove these images from the internet. For those victims whose images have been found to be distributed, or even if not, we continue to try to monitor the situation to see if the images have indeed been distributed. So we try to help the victims alleviate their concerns and their anxiety. And if the images have been found to be distributed, then we try to remove those images with the help of various other interested parties, such as the police agency and the Korea Communication Standards Commission. So we work together with them in coordination through also with investigative activities. Let me just briefly share with you some statistics. This is up until last year, so this is the most current statistics that we have. There's illegal photography, distribution, threat, or blackmail, and anxiety, etc. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this later on, but there's also photo augmentation, which is photoshopping, and cyberbullying or harassment. So we try to see this from the point of view of victims. Earlier, Professor Adam Bosler said that it's important for us to take a feminist perspective. We also think that it's very important, and also try to see this from the point of view of media literacy. Our employees continue to try to get advocacy training and education so that we can help victims better. Obviously, 60% of the victims suffer distribution or sharing of these pictures and non-consensual filming. We ask the hosts and web managers of different P2P sites and porn sites to take down the images. Let me share with you some of the statistics that we have for the first half of this year. There have been some big issues as of late in Korea, the Telegram incidents, and in April, the perpetrators were arrested. Since April, we've seen a huge increase in the number of reports, victims coming forward to us. And so the government has actually even passed an extra budget. And beginning at the end of August to September, and even now, we've been providing even more advocacy to victims. We've brought in an additional 50 employees. Currently, we have already removed about 170,000 images. As you can see here, this is for the first half of this year. We were able to help about 2,100 or so victims. This is almost equal to the entire number of victims of last year. So just first half of this year, we've seen a number of victims that is commensurable to the number of victims for the entire year of 2019. We've been able to see the outrage in Korea after the Telegram incidents. We've seen a lot of calls coming in. All of this really began with the Telegram incidents, but this has, I think, raised more awareness about the issue of cyber online image-based sexual violence. We've also seen a lot of calls from minors as well and young victims. Next, I'd like to talk about the different kinds of types of digital sexual violence and the different support services that we offer to them depending on the category of the abuse. This is the category that we use within our center, within our advocacy center. So you might think that this is a lot of different categories, but in fact, these come with additional subcategories. First is obviously the most well-known, which is the illegal or non-consensual filming or taking or creation of these explicit images. Maybe mostly in cases of public places like public bathrooms and etc. Many of these cases, the victims are very motivated to voluntarily report the crime, and they really help out with the authorities to try to take down the perpetrator. And then there is also the non-consensual distribution of these images. In many cases, we hear from victims who've already seen the distribution of their images online. And in some cases, the videos or the images have been altered. They've been easily edited. In fact, people can edit it very easily with their smartphones now. And in some cases, the perpetrator would upload these in a series, in a story. In many of the cases, the victims become cognizant of this after the fact. And also, they hear about it through a third party. So they would call us saying that I heard from a friend of a friend that they saw my image somewhere. What should I do? When that happens, we try to move really quickly to try to monitor the situation, see where the images have been distributed so that we can take them down and remove them from the internet. In some cases, if the victim is a minor, it's difficult really to work together. We have to prove that this was non-consensual, which can be difficult, especially if it's a minor. And it's difficult for anyone really to give consent for the distribution of their sexually explicit images or videos. So we have to always make very clear that this was largely non-consensual. I have to say that Dr. Bosler's presentation was really memorable for me because we should not focus on the intent, but the fact that this was non-consensual, really, it should be the most important focus. We have to really look at this from the victim point of view. And that's how we have to address the situation. And I hope that's how we can have that here in Korea as well when we revise the relevant laws. There's also a lot of blackmail involved for distribution. Even if there was no distribution, the perpetrator would threaten to distribute this to other people. This could lead to a lot of anxiety for the victim, and there could be consistent blackmail, consistent threatening. And so it is very important to try to provide counseling to the victim. But because the victim is in so much pain and suffering, the victim is later, she tries to leave the chat room, or she just tries to remove all the images from her phone because it brings her so much suffering. But when that happens, when she leaves the chat room, then we lose access to a lot of the evidence. So we try to provide psychological supports and counseling while having access to that evidence so that that can help the authorities in their investigation. All victims are understandably afraid that there's going to be redistribution because, unfortunately, we also recognize the fact that once it is online, there can never be a perfect takedown or perfect removal of all of these images because these are files and they can be readily distributed and shared by many people and stored and saved in their other devices. And we've also seen after the Telegram incidents, many people calling into our center because they are scared and fearful that their videos and their images might be out there being shared and distributed by people unbeknownst to them. So we try to provide support, but if a person calls in with this vague fear and a vague anxiety without clear evidence of the fact that their images have been distributed, there's a limit to the kind of advocacy and counseling that we can do. We try to come up with more psychotherapy or other kind of counseling services for those types of victims. Recently, we've also seen more increasing cases of what we call body cam phishing images. So we've received a lot of calls from people. when their distribution has been made through various messenger videos like Kakao and Telegram, WhatsApp. We try to work together with those developers, but it's difficult to remove all the images. This can lead to secondary or tertiary damage through online grooming and other instances, so we have to work really quickly on this. Next, I'd like to move on to sexual harassment or cyberbullying. The sexual harassment in cyberspace is a very big umbrella term, and this encapsulates many different kinds of harassment. This is not just relegated to various images. Of course, in many cases, it starts with images and it starts with videos. But other than these image-based sexual violence, there are other areas of sexual harassment. So, for example, maybe somebody would hack into another person's device to try to steal my phone. Or if I were to put my profile pic on Instagram, somebody would use that and Photoshop it with a graphic image and have that distributed elsewhere. And I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit further when I talk more about the Telegram case. The characteristics of especially minors who have been subjected to digital violence, we see that these minors, these young children are digital natives. They were really born with knowledge of this, and they're very used to using this digital environment. And their culture is that they feel very much used and familiar using digital devices. A foundation in Korea issued a survey to about 600 middle schoolers or junior high students in 2017. Over 50%, nearly 60% of them said that you can have a friendship all online over the phone. And 21% said that I can have a romantic relationship with someone I meet online. And over 19% of them said that, yes, I've shared my pictures with somebody I've only met online. So this means that there's going to be higher instances of what we call online grooming because of all of these close personal relationships that form in cyberspace. Through one-on-one chatting, these chat forums and chat rooms, a perpetrator might advance a minor and establish a close personal relationship with them, get their images, and then distribute them. I mentioned a little bit about online sex exploitation, online sexual exploitation, together with online grooming. Rather than having this as one type of crime, they are different kinds of types of crimes that really overlap together and sometimes appear together. I have this separate slide on online sexual exploitation because I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into the different Telegram incidents that we've seen in the early part of this year in Korea. Minors, especially young children, teenagers, are very much preyed upon in these chat rooms. So their images are stolen from social media. And in many cases, some people have behaved like they are authorities, like they are the police, to get closer to minors and then get their images and then threaten and blackmail the minors, saying that they're going to distribute this online. And because of these blackmails and because of these threats, the minors feel like they have no choice but to submit to rape and other sexual abuse. The Telegram incidents were first known through the use of all of these different social media channels like Kakao Messenger and different messenger applications. So we try to provide support in the form of having these images removed from these different messaging applications. And even within the Telegram application, we've seen different secret chat rooms later on made and opened for these perpetrators to go and hide when we take down one chat room. And so it's very difficult to try to access this kind of information. Because of these Telegram incidents, in April of this year, the government issued a government-wide response. And as I mentioned, they passed a supplementary extra budget, which is why we were able to hire a team of additional 50 more people into our center. So for this, instead of just providing post support to the victims after they call in their sexual abuse to us. We've tried to move with more resources preemptively to try to monitor all of these different chat rooms and different applications to see if there are any graphic images or non-consensual images that are already being distributed. In many cases, we see these composite photographs or Photoshop photographs where people would just download profile pics off Instagram or whatnot and Photoshop that together with graphic images and even put text on top of that. And recently, we've also had the inclusion of a new provision in our relevant laws, including the use of deep fakes. We've tried to really lobby the government to try to pass this. Hopefully, with this deep fake provision, this could give us a legal basis to take down more of these instances. But in many of the cases, some perpetrators who have been found to sort of just sexually humiliate the victim, this kind of case has not really been prosecuted to the fullest degree that we feel it is necessary. So that is one area that we find a little bit discouraging. So next, I'd like to move on to the deletion program that we have, where we work to remove the images and videos from online, from cyberspace. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to move quickly here. We provide this removal support based on the Act on the Prevention of Sex Violence and Victim Protection, Article 7.3. We ask online web supporters, these online applications or the domain hosts or the websites to help. We ask them to take down and remove these images. So it's very important that we have good international cooperation and collaboration with these domains and with these servers. We have come up with our own system to try to provide this removal support. We have a DNA values search system that we can do a sweeping search through this center, do a crawling search, and then ask the domain or the web server to remove the images. We also developed this system last year with the application called WebHard in Korea. So for all WebHard drives, we can do a complete comprehensive search across all of the WebHards, these hard drives online in Korea to try to search for all of these images. We also work closely with the police agency, obviously. So we have a regular investigative cooperation with the police agency and obviously with the victim's consent. We share this together, share the information together with the police agency to facilitate their investigation. Lastly, I want to talk about cooperation with these online platforms. This is very important for us. At our center, we have to work closely with Naver, Google, Twitter, Facebook, all of these different platforms and websites. We are working closely with them. We also have dedicated channels for each of these different platforms. So even in this COVID-19 era, we meet them through Zoom to try to ask them to continue to work with us in removing these different images. And also these online platforms have been very active in stepping up their efforts to working with us. At our Advocacy Center, we really try to look at all of this from the point of view of the victims, and we try to come up with a strategic, very comprehensive support for our victims. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation.